What is the stigma in addressing mental health?
As a black man here in America, I would say that the topic of mental health for people in general is a difficult topic to discuss, especially the older you are. Fortunately, I see that with the younger generation speaking about and being comfortable discussing issues you may face or seeking assistance is much easier than it was when I was in my 20s, and especially when I was in my teens and preteens. So that's positive. However, because of the negative social stigma that was associated with mental health issues going back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, I find myself today feeling like any type of request or indication that you may need help is typically looked down upon. And especially for me as a black man in America, I found that throughout my life that any, whether it be amongst family, friends, definitely in the business world, in the academic world, anytime, and I'm 100% speaking for self. I'm not making a generalized statement that I'm saying pertains to all African American males. I'm speaking specifically about my own personal experiences, and that will be is that whenever those circumstances or times occurred where I felt like there may be the need for me to seek some assistance from a mental health perspective, the following outcome or result of that was not positive.
Black strength. Strength that has carried us for decades, but is undermining an important aspect of our humanity and feeding in on itself. Being strong all the time took away our ability to speak about our weaknesses, our sadness, our mental illnesses. This silence is killing us. On top of that, we lack proper mental health care access and endure mistreatments by medical professionals who cannot relate to us in their practice. On top of that, we stigmatize mental illness to preserve this place of our strength, damaging ourselves, and among black children observing a spike in suicide rates because they may feel that their place in heaven is way better than their place here today, because when black life isn't valued enough for professional help, adequate housing, or even breathing, life here degrades in value in comparison to life after.
It was often viewed as me lacking in some capacity, a change in the way that the individuals that I presented those issues to view me and so forth. And for me, those things occurred prior to my 20s, or prior to what I would say was the beginning of my actual adulthood. So because of those experiences, once I did begin to move firmly into the realm of adulthood, I found that I still haven't have what could be considered an issue of taking things that would be of concern or stress, anxiety, and different things like that, and have found different ways to accommodate and move away from that versus the use of or seeking out actual professional help, so to speak. If I do find myself in a situation where I feel that the means of alleviating or stress reduction and so forth is not beneficial, or if there was ever any desire or feeling that I would need to, say, succumb to alcohol or something that was negative to my overall mental and physical health as some means to alleviate or resolve any type of mental health concern, then I would seek professional help as an alternative. But once again, I say that although we live in a society today that says that there's no shame, no stigma, no ramifications for seeking out and requesting help for mental health issues, I do not personally believe that that is something that an African American male can do, because the world looks at us differently.
With your shifting, watch everyone.
Peace, how y'all doing, man? My name is King Ron, and to answer that question, I think that one of the stigmas that we kind of miss with labeling mental health is calling just the term itself mental health.
How good are you at recognizing early signs that your mental health is slipping? I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist. It's very hard to pull yourself out of a hole when you bottom out from depression. It's much easier to change your course if you haven't gotten too low. Here are some relatively common signs that your mental health is going downward, and these are in no particular order. Number 1, you stop bathing or reduce it to maybe once a week or every other week. I use the term bathing because I'm not talking specifically about taking a shower if you're someone who regularly sponges off in the sink. This isn't a judgment about how you clean yourself. The significance is that whatever way you clean yourself, you stop doing it or struggle to do it consistently. This low attention to hygiene is more common than one might think, and I always ask about it when someone isn't doing well, because when you get depressed, everything becomes hard. You know it's not good that you don't feel like doing it, and some people can really beat themselves up or really feel bad for not keeping themselves clean. The guilt doesn't make you do it though, it just adds to the misery you feel. The second sign is not brushing your teeth for days, weeks, or even months for some people. And this is similar to not bathing, but a little different, as people prioritize personal hygiene differently. If you live in a warm climate or do active work, you may not be able to go without bathing, but brushing your teeth becomes the extra thing that just becomes too hard. A third sign that your mental health is slipping is your surroundings become super cluttered. You may have days of dishes piled in the sink with dried food stuck to them, or clothes all over the floor, mail stacked up that you haven't read. You may have a full voicemail and hundreds of unanswered emails and text messages. And the unanswered emails and texts may be because it's too hard to check, but it can also be because of the fourth sign, which is you frequently lose track of time and can spend lots of time sitting around doing nothing. One of the features of depression is what's called psychomotor slowing. Your mind moves slowly, and even your body movements are slowed. It's like you're living with your speed turned down to 1/2. At this pace, things take longer to do, but also you can sit around staring into space doing nothing. Because time moves slower for you, you don't get much done and things pile up. But it's not easy for a non-depressed person to sit with no stimulation unless you're doing some form of meditation. Number 5 is feeling strong emotions just underneath the surface, especially when those emotions don't match your circumstances. An example of this is feeling tears just behind your eyes that can fall at any time, even when there's nothing making you upset. You feel fragile, and life itself feels sad. Or you may feel anger in your chest, like fire in a dragon's chest, that you're afraid will just spew out at the least provocation. Feeling unstable like this can lead to the 6th sign, which is isolating and avoiding people. You may be afraid that you'll break down in front of people or blow up and lose your stuff in front of them. Or maybe even if you think you can hold it together, you don't want people asking you a lot of questions about how you're doing. If you're unhappy and just still trying to push through the days, you don't want to be reminded of how unhappy you are or hear about how perfect everyone else's life seems by comparison. The last sign is feeling exhausted and sleepy no matter how much rest you get. And this isn't just an energy thing. You can actually fall asleep a couple of hours after you got up. And this may tie into the sign of being able to sit unstimulated and lose track of time. So you can sit for a while looking around and then doze off and not realize you were sleeping until you come to or someone interrupts you from your nap. Although oversleeping and feeling tired are symptoms of depression, there are other reasons for having this. If you notice that it's happening to you, it's time for a mental wellness check.
Mental health and not identifying the levels of mental health. And when I say that, I mean like, when you think about mental health, you mean like, it's different levels of mental health. You got your good mental health, you somewhere in the middle, you borderline, not so good, not so bad, and then you just got completely bad mental health. I feel like we should, in order to stop the stigma, make sure we need to identify mental health, the levels of mental health. I feel like we just need to identify the levels of mental health. So meaning, if somebody is in a good mental state, then they got good mental health. So when we talk about mental health, we think about physical health. Physical health is physical health. It can be good or bad. Spiritual health can be good or bad. Mental health can be good or bad. So when we talk about mental health, we can't just say mental health. When people hear mental health, they just think automatically that it's bad. You know, but we got to identify the levels. So meaning, if a person is in a good state, then we identify them as in good mental health. If a person not doing so well, we label them borderline mental health. You know what I mean? Somebody just completely out of whack, then they got bad mental health. So I think we got to properly identify the levels and the characteristics of mental health. You know what I mean? And that can potentially stop the stigma. You know what I mean? I think that's it right there. I'm gonna call it peace right there. Appreciate y'all time. Appreciate the energy. And let's continue to raise the awareness of mental health issues.
Whatever you've been taught or really programmed. Because, you know, when we say that, I've heard it said, you know, you wasn't raised like that. Yeah, that's right. But you're using the wrong word. It's not raised, it was programmed. What we have to do, if we're going to see some rapid change, we're going to have to start paying attention, not just be conscious, but we have to be conscious parents. Those children from the age of 0 to 7, that's the most crucial time of a child's life. Because whatever you have taught them and programmed to think on how to think and the way they view the world, is the way they're going to spend the rest of their life. And if you take somebody that is born and you teach them to hate or to discriminate or to whatever, that's what they're going to be. That's what they're going to be. You have to pay attention and be here's the one that makes me cringe is when I hear mothers talking about their kids in front of their kids. And they saying stuff like, oh, he's so bad. Because that's what the poor little kids say. Mama says, I'm bad. I'm bad. You're teaching this child to be something that you don't want him to be. Oh, you ain't no good. Oh, you just... Really?